Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon. Sorry, did that video go again?
No.
Yes?
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
went.
see
The
the video.
video.
Did you see the video?
Oh, how strange. Yeah, I saw the video.
I'm
Definitely.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. So I missed our cue. Um, yes, okay. You'll have to excuse the bells, guys. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. It's Thursday, I think, the 30th of April. Yes, I need to check. And as per every afternoon at 12 o'clock, we have a business webinar for you. My name is Richard, and I am joined as usual by Alex. So first of all, we will introduce ourselves, like I say, to those people who don't know us, and to remind the people that have forgotten about us who we are.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, no. So my name is Richard. I'm originally from Wales. So I'm Welsh, and I'm a corporate teacher at Milan Meravili, which means that I teach predominantly in companies, teaching general and business English, depending on what the company requires. And I have been living in Milan for 5 years, more or less. I'm married. I have 2 children, which at the moment are driving me crazy. And they are. And yeah, that's it, basically. I have one sister also who lives in England. She is also a teacher, and she teaches music for a private school. So, Alex, how about you?
Well, first of all, hello, everybody who is watching us. My name is Alex. I am also a corporate teacher. So it is a pleasure for me to teach you business English today. I normally teach business English and general English in companies or in our school in Milano Meravigli. If you are following us now, please just drop a line and let us know where you are listening from, which school you go to, and if you want, tell us something maybe of your job or responsibilities, if you study, just something about you. So about me, I am American and also Italian. I am bilingual. On my mother's side, I come from, my family comes from Chicago. But I was born in Italy and basically grew up here. I have studied in the US for my master's degree in communication. So I mainly am focused on marketing and communication or digital marketing in general. So if you have any questions for me or for Richard, please, again, it is our pleasure to make this as useful as possible for you.
Yes, okay, great. Thanks, Alex. How's your week been?
Sorry?
How's your week been?
Oh, my week. It has been okay. It is, like we were saying, sometimes it feels like Groundhog's Day. For those who are watching, this is an expression that means that every day is similar to the previous day. So it feels like you are repeating over and over the same things. Still,
It's like a loop, isn't it?
it's like a loop. Sometimes
Yes.
it feels like that. But thankfully, even with the webinars, they change the topic, the subject. So it always is interesting. And it kind of forces you to be professional and to have something to do, have something to concentrate on. So I find it helpful to maintain sanity in the current situation. It feels like something is normal.
Yeah, we need a routine, don't we? If you don't have the routine, then I think that's when you really start to get a little bit crazy. Even though my children drive me crazy, it's sometimes quite nice having them because it gives you maybe a sense of purpose a little bit, that you have to do things for them, you know.
Right.
But it must be awfully hard for the people. I know you don't live on your own, but it must be awfully hard for some of the people that do live on their own.
Right.
So if you do live on your own, we are thinking of you. Stay strong. Try to. We know it's difficult in these strange times, but okay. All right, let's move on to the focus, shall we? Let's try and do something constructive.
Right.
Okay, so the one we've chosen for you today is a business focus activity on meetings, and we have chosen Advanced Meetings 2. And the main title of this focus is a dilemma. Or a dilemma in Italian, I guess. Yes, correct.
Yeah, the pronunciation kind of differs on the first I. So
Yeah.
dilemma in English.
And what is a dilemma, Alex?
A dilemma is when you have to choose between two or more options. Maybe they are equally interesting or have different pros and cons. So yeah, it's a choice. And sometimes it's a difficult choice.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. It's a hard choice, isn't it? It's which one should we choose? So that's why we call it the dilemma, because we are not sure if it's that one or that one, or maybe 3 or 4 different choices. Okay, so let's have a look at what we are going to look at in the focus. Okay. Would you like to read?
Yes. So today, in this business activity, we're going to look at ways to break down an issue. This is a phrasal verb that means to reduce into smaller parts, to break down something. Normally, it's an issue, a problem. You don't break down things in general. Then we're going to look at some vocabulary, especially to talk about balance sheets. So for those who are working in finance, this is probably very familiar. The balance sheet is a very important document that companies need to have. And so we'll look further in our business focus today what it is all about and which parts, which type of information goes inside a business balance sheet. And finally, we're going to look at verbs and focusing on the type of verbs that follow. So there are normally pairs of verbs, and sometimes we put a gerund, so the ing form, and sometimes it's the infinitive. So maybe this is the dilemma we have to solve today, if it's gerund or infinitive.
Perfect. Very good. Thanks very much, Alex. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay. First of all, we are just going to have a look at some quotes about teamwork, and we are going to think of the meaning of the quote, what do we think about the quote, and in which type of situation at work we could relate this to. So basically, the first one, which is quite nice, I think, is if you can laugh together, you can work together. So Alex may have different opinions, or you guys may have different opinions, which is fine. For me, it means that if you laugh together, you have a good relationship with someone if you can make them laugh. And in a work situation, this helps you to work together. Maybe also that things aren't always serious. Yes, and for me, I think this is quite important. Yes, but sometimes if you can make your colleague laugh or they can make you laugh, you are maybe automatically a bit more receptive, maybe a little bit more open. And we have an expression in English where we said it breaks the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it shows people are human sometimes. I guess maybe for you people that are listening, I think the worst thing is if you have to work with someone who is maybe serious all the time. For me, anyway, this is very opinionated. Yeah, it's very subjective, but it's quite important for me that you can laugh with your colleague. I think it creates a better working relationship. The situation at work, um, I find sometimes it's quite funny to laugh at each other's mistakes sometimes because we all make them. Yeah, no one's perfect, and maybe there have been situations where we have made a mistake in maybe one or two of our classes, which does happen. And you may hear a teacher making a mistake or something like that, and you could just laugh at it sometimes, and it creates a nice atmosphere. Do you agree, Al? Or
Yes, I kind of agree. It's not always, um, I would say that this first quote applies to many situations in which if you can enjoy your time with somebody, you can probably work very well. Of course, it doesn't always apply. I mean, you probably won't or shouldn't, I'd say, want to work with your friends because there's always a chance of ruining a friendship by working together. But yeah, I think it's especially true that, and sometimes we forget about this, that our colleagues are actually the people we spend the most time with in absolutely the most time with during the day. At least 8 or 9 hours are a good portion of our day, and so it's good to try to enjoy, to make the most out of that time. And if you can enjoy it with somebody that is not only a good coworker but also an enjoyable person, then of course it makes things so much nicer, I think.
I went through a period of I had a friend. Yes, and he's still a friend actually. He's one of my oldest friends, and we went through a period of working together and living together.
Wow.
So that was quite.
And you're still friends, so it must have gone.
Yeah, no, it's quite an experience. Yeah, yeah, I agree. It can be difficult, or I worked also a long time ago. I worked for a company which was a family-run company. Yes, and there were about 6 family members working for the company. The two directors were brothers. There were two other managers, which were their wives, and also a couple of their sons and daughters, and they all lived together also.
Wow.
So that was quite, because we have an expression, you leave your personal life at home, but they actually brought it to work also. So
Yeah. Well,
it's quite
my cousin actually used to run a restaurant, and his at the time girlfriend was working with her, and they ended up separating. So it can, I
yeah.
mean, sometimes working together can create tension and stress, especially if your results depend on the quality of the work you do. And so, I mean, it's not for everybody. It is important to try to keep your private and your work life separate in probably in most cases. So if
I
whoever
don't.
is watching us now agree, have you ever been in such a situation? We'd be curious. So just drop a comment and tell us if you have ever been faced with a similar situation.
Yeah, I don't think I could work with my wife. We'd kill each other.
I think
Um,
so as well.
no, it's true, because it just doesn't. Uh, I think it's different for everybody. Okay, do you want to look at the next quote?
Yes. So none of us is as smart as all of us. So in this case, we're talking about how putting together different intelligences, if you can use it as the plural, basically different skills. Each and every one of us has a special something, maybe a special something that they bring to work. And so by working together, the idea is that we compensate each other, we can multiply our intelligence. And so I, I think I agree with this quote. I believe that by um, discussing, by uh, facing each other and looking at the pros and cons of things together, sometimes we work in a better way. But I understand that this is just my personal opinion. So, what do you think, Richard?
Yeah, it reminds me of that lesson we did last week, I think it was, where we looked at a very similar quote saying, power in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So again, yes, by working collectively, I think it's a strength. So yeah, none of us is as smart as all of us put together. Yeah, by working together and going back, of course, to the title of the slide, in a teamwork, I think normally it depends, but maybe you get better results, more efficiency, yeah, better ideas, maybe, where we talked before about maybe brainstorming and things. So yeah, I quite like this quote. Yes, and I think working collectively, for me, uh, is very good, because I like to hear other people's ideas and even use other people's ideas. Yes,
You can learn continuously from
yes,
others.
for sure, for sure. In my opinion, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last one I think is just a little bit of a joke, bit of a funny quote that they've put here. Yes. Um, Teamwork is essential. It allows you to blame someone else. Yes, well, there is that
So
downside, I guess, to
is this a
teamwork.
positive or negative view of teamwork?
Negative.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely it's a negative. It's kind of sarcastic.
Yes, of course, there are some people or some occasions where people, when they work in a team, we say, quite ready to point the finger. Yes, like, literally, it was him or it was her, or you know.
Yeah, you did it. No, you did it. Right.
Yes.
So that is,
Sounds like my children.
if
Yeah.
you're doing like that, you're blaming someone. So to blame means to say that somebody is responsible for something, often in a
Somebody else.
negative, kind of vindicative way.
Yeah, somebody else is responsible, not you. Wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't
Okay,
me. Yeah,
let's.
you decided. Okay,
Yes.
so
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so let's have a look at the question. What are some of the pros and cons of workplace teamwork? And if you guys remember, pros and cons are synonyms of advantages and disadvantages. There are many ways that we, many ways, 3 or 4 ways that we describe advantages and disadvantages. One of them is pros and cons. We can also say negatives and positives, pluses and minuses.
yeah, there's so many ways. Yes.
Yeah, so these are the pros and cons of working in a team at work. So let's have a look at the pros first. We have feedback, sharing the workload, and error correction. So the feedback is when people give you an opinion on something that is related to work, and different to criticism, feedback should be something that is quite positive.
Constructive.
Yes, well, very good. I was just going to say, normally, when we talk about criticism in a work environment, we actually call it it should be constructive criticism. There's no point in really giving a negative comment to someone without maybe some evidence or maybe some sort of solution, because it just creates, it could create tension or demotivates that person.
I'm laughing because I had one situation in which we were supposed to create a short video, and it was a short story with multiple scenarios anyway, kind of complex. And I was working with a colleague, and all that colleague was able to do was completely destroy any proposal or any idea that was coming out. And at one point I said, you either you're either giving a solution or you're just shutting up, because I cannot stand that anymore. Because you either bring in, you can criticize, it's only good, but if you don't bring a solution with that criticism, it's worth nothing. So
yeah, some people feel that they have to criticize all the time, for the sake of it, where it's not really, it doesn't.
It's not helping. It's
not helpful at all. I agree. You know, when I worked in administration and personnel and finance and stuff, we used to have these courses, sometimes how to be a good people manager. Because I think some people are natural managers, some people are not very good managers, but they become managers. And one of the things that they would always try to emphasize in these courses is, you know, with the feedback or with the criticism, you have to have some sort of evidence or some solution or some reason, and do it in a way that doesn't demotivate. your staff, because the worst thing you can do to someone is to say something like, that's not very good, or that's rubbish, or so okay. Um, but the feedback, if it's positive and it can provide solutions or show you a better way of doing something, this gets maybe the best out of the team. This is by having more than 2 or 3 people working together. That people, we can use an expression that it can bounce off each other, where it goes backwards and forwards. Yes, and as collectively, then with the feedback that everybody gives, you can actually produce maybe some very good work or some very good results, which leads into maybe the second one a little bit, sharing workload. Okay. And one thing we looked at previously in the webinars was strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes sharing the workload in this way, when you're working as a team, normally you identify everybody's strengths and weaknesses from the beginning, because everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. And a weakness isn't always a negative. It's just that maybe you are better at something else than and not as good as someone else's. We're all, So sharing the workload in this way, where you identify who can do what. Again, you are ensuring that the best people are doing the work. Yes.
Exactly.
Error correction, similar to feedback a little bit, maybe. Yes. Where people can check work for errors and identify the errors, and to ensure that when you actually submit the work or finish the work, it's more or less 100% correct. Okay, do you want to do the cons?
Of course. So we're looking at the cons. So disadvantages of teamwork. You can see egos. That is another Latin-based word, like, or maybe it's Greek actually, like dilemma. So the ego is actually our own very strong personality, and in teamwork, strong egos are generally not beneficial because they either catalyze a lot of work, so they take work from other people, or they take responsibility, or in general, they're not beneficial to the general working, effective working of a team. Weak links, that's, I don't like this expression, a weak link, that you say that the strength of a chain is its weakest link. A link is basically a small part of a chain. In a chain, you have different links that connect each other. And so the weakest link is normally the weakest person inside a team. This is an opinion that many people have about, many people that are contrary to teamwork have about working in teams, because they find it like a justification for people who aren't that good, so they need to work with others. Whereas my personal opinion is that I have always worked nicely in teams, because I find that your own value becomes exponential to the value of other people. So it adds value. It's not a justification for not being good at doing something. And finally, distractions. I don't know about you, Richard, but I would interpret this as often when you are working in teamwork, you need to assign roles. There needs to be maybe a project management. So remaining updating your colleagues on what you're doing and so on. And this may be considered a distraction. Actually, as the
Mhm.
word project management suggests, this is actually how you manage a teamwork, how you manage a team, and how you make the work productive. So I can't think of other sources of distractions. Can you?
No, no, no. I was thinking that. I agree with you on your opinion with the weak link. Yeah, I don't actually like that term also really for a team. Again, it's a bit demotivating, or it's not very nice. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like that term. Yes, because you have to recognize that people have strengths and weaknesses. Distractions, I mean, maybe I don't know whether it could relate to personalities. Yes, when
Mm-hmm.
when people work together, they might end up talking about the film they saw last night instead
Oh,
of,
in that sense.
I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah, I mean, again, this is a bit subjective to both of us. Yeah, it could be a distraction like that. Maybe if you had um, a couple working in a team, they could be distracted by, like we talked about earlier, maybe their personal lives or something. Yes. So, because you have people working together, um, sometimes, I remember working in an office a long time ago when I worked in, and this is crazy because we worked in Parliament, and it was, uh, we worked in a team, sort of a team, where there were six guys, yes, and we were all the same age in our early 20s, and we had such a laugh, but sometimes it was too much because we would be a distraction to each other, and you have to do the work. But because we all had a very good relationship with each other, yes, we used to go out together, also lunchtimes, and it could be a distraction sometimes. Sometimes you'd have to say, right now, come on, I've got to focus, yeah, on my work. Um, okay. We have a question at the end. What are situations where individual work is more ideal? Um, this one was quite a hard one to really think about, apart from maybe I was thinking about maybe jobs where you just have to work as an individual anyway. If you were an artist or something like that, yeah, then you wouldn't work in a team.
Yeah,
Um,
I was thinking of there are also some type of people who are prone to working alone. You may consider, for example, entrepreneurs. Um, you normally need to have a very strong will and vision, and sometimes that vision can be brought on only individually. If you are a leader, generally leaders work on their own, but it's not totally true. I mean, good leaders are able to create a network, which, if you want, is a different way of considering teamwork. In some ways, you are recognizing the strengths of different people around you, and you're able to keep connections and basically make your vision more concrete and advance thanks to the different qualities and strengths of the people around you. So yeah, maybe entrepreneurs more than others have this quality.
or maybe if you have to do some research, if you're a researcher, where you have to go away and do something, you know, do some research first without any collaboration. Yes. Okay. Or maybe even maybe situations which require a bit of writing. Yeah. I think it's quite hard to write collectively sometimes.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, well, in general, for example, when I was preparing my thesis, my thesis was a collective work, so I was working with a colleague, and we assigned each other the parts of the study to complete because it was quite a big project. So we simply divided the tasks. So again, I think that there's not a right or wrong answer. It really depends how you manage teamwork. If you are able to clearly assign tasks and possibly assign them on the basis of the strength or weakness of a person, and you're also able to manage how the team progresses on something, then it is extremely beneficial.
Okay. Cool. Let's have a look at the next slide. Okay. We have this slide now, which the title is Balancing It Out. So when we balance something out, we want two things to be equal and to make sense, maybe also. So it says here, the balance sheet is a snapshot of a company's financial situation. Expenses and income keep changing all the time, so the balance sheet becomes obsolete immediately. At the end of a fiscal period, a company needs to analyze their financial state, and a balance sheet aims to assist in any questions about finances. The difference in the balance sheet is the company's equity, or net value. It's necessary to have a few figures ready in order to calculate this. Using financial statements and value of possessions, a company can evaluate their assets. Anything a company must pay in the future, however, are its liabilities. Okay, shall I look at the first paragraph, the ones in red?
Sure.
Well, yeah? Okay, so it says here the balance sheet is a snapshot of a company's financial situation. So the snapshot gives you a picture of the financial situation, a picture of that point in time. Yes, okay, of that particular time. Like a camera takes a photo, it's a snapshot. Yes, it captures something in that time and gives us some sort of idea about financial situation of a company. The fiscal period is, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, is the tax year, yes?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. As you know, we pay tax. I'm not sure how the tax is paid in Italy, actually. I don't know if it's different to Britain. In Britain, the tax year is normally from April to April.
Yeah, I think it's the same. There are situations in which I think there are businesses in which the fiscal year actually is the same as
A normal year, yeah?
the calendar year.
Yeah.
But in fact, often there are budgets which are prepared in November or October because the fiscal year ends in December and restarts in January. So a lot of people prepare their budgets for the following year around November, and other businesses instead prepare these in the beginning of the new year, so around February or even January sometimes, because the fiscal year may end in March. So I think it really depends.
Sorry, March.
Business.
Yeah, April to March. That's right. Sorry, and it begins in it. Yeah, you're right. Not April to April.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Next paragraph. You want to take over, or
Sure.
continue?
So we're going to focus on the words in red. So the company's equity. Actually, the equity, as it suggests, is the difference between what the company earns and what the company is spending. So, oh, it's nice to see Claudia Terzoni with us.
Hi,
Welcome
Claudia.
to our webinar. And we're talking about finance at the moment. So the company's equity can be considered the company's value or net value, as the text suggests. Next comes figures. So figures can be considered numbers and statistics. So we use figures to calculate the equity, for example, and sometimes we refer to figures in reports, or other company documents, maybe the company's description, or we refer to figures relating to its finances, to
sales figures.
sales figures. Okay. And next comes assets. An asset can be considered, there are different types of assets. They can be physical assets and intangible assets. So, for example, we can consider tangible or physical assets the building the company owns, the cars or the fleet. It can be considered the materials or the equipment, anything that is tangible and that can be purchased. Instead, we have also intangible assets, such as the know-how of a specific company. If a company owns specific patents, so they have registered a know-how or an invention or a procedure, and they have their name on it. And as well, the human resources, so the employees can be considered intangible assets. So the knowledge and the know-how they possess as people. So all this put together, it means that they are all that the company owns and can create value from. And finally, the liabilities are the costs, I guess, the
debt.
The debts, exactly.
Yeah, the things that the company owns money on. Yes,
exactly.
Okay. Whether it be work or whether it be materials or again possessions or something, or rents. Basically, could be overheads. Overheads is another word. Overheads are what a company needs to pay, or the money the company needs to generate each day to run that company. And okay, yeah, you have your overheads. So I don't know, like you say, it costs 5,000 euros for this company to function every day, because your overheads would include, again, your rents on your building, your utilities like your electricity, water, staff. Yes, okay, for the running of the company. But this could be your liability is the debt that you have. Could be against the overheads, or could be, like Alex said, towards other things. Yes. Okay, we are running a little bit short on time, so let's just have a quick look at. We have some phrases underlined also. This is where at the beginning we said we would look at when we use two verbs together. Do we use the verb and the verb and ing, or verb and the infinitive? Okay, so let's just draw your attention to keep changing, as we can see here. It's quite often that when we use the verb to keep plus another verb, the other verb is in the ing form. So keep changing. When we use the verb to need, yes, the verb is followed by the infinitive, and the same for aims to assist. And just as a quick reminder, aim to assist basically means to help. Yeah. Okay. Aim to assist. The target is to help. Okay. And then we have an expression here. It's necessary to have. Okay. So we have the verb in the infinitive. We are going to have a quick look at some expressions. Sorry. Oops, some definitions of the words in red in that paragraph. Okay, just as a quick reminder for you what they mean. So for economic resource, we have asset, or assets, I'm sorry. Yeah, as Alex mentioned before quite well, the statistics are the figures. Yes. Okay. The financial time frame is okay. It's quite easy because you have a word relating to time. There is the fiscal period. Okay. Next one, Alex.
Value of a business, as we said, is equity.
Perfect.
Then comes a view of a specific time, and as Richard explained, we're talking about snapshot.
Great.
And finally, economic obligations, liabilities.
Great. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Do you want to start this one?
Shall we move directly to the next one?
Yeah, okay. Let's just go here.
So very good, Claudia, for your definitions. Good job. Okay, so we're just going to focus on the verbs inside this dialogue. We'll read through it quickly. I will be Jessica, and
yeah, I'll be Rodney. You can be Jessica because it makes sense. Okay. Shall we start looking through the balance sheet? Did you manage to bring the files?
I did. It's important to have all the documents in front of us to avoid wasting any time. Here's your copy.
Thanks. Now errors tend to be in the formulas, so let's start there. I think the asset section has to have a missing value.
As you can see, your liquid cash figures is correct. All the open invoices are attached too, and you can find the sum in the account receivable column.
Okay, great. Did we consider recalculating the prepaid expenses column for our plant? Remember that we ordered new brewery equipment that hasn't arrived yet.
I had James double check the calculations, and he didn't seem to have any problems. Wait, I've got it. Oh, sorry, that's you.
Wait, I've got it. Take a look at the liabilities section. Just the other day, we paid off most of the interest, of that interest. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the week. Yeah. Guys, okay. As you know, me and Alex are auditioning for a new movie once this lockdown is finishing. Yes, it's finished. So we're not sure what it's going to be yet, but Hollywood has been knocking on the door.
Yeah, I think I've just bombed my audition today. Anyway.
All right, let's have a look at the question. Okay, so which which phrases require the gerund or the ing form? Okay, we have here start looking. Okay, so we have the verb to start and to look, put them together, start looking. We have avoid wasting. Okay. Consider recalculating. And those are the only three. Then we have some more for which require the infinitive. So we have important to have. Okay. Tend to be. Okay, which we could substitute for the word usually. Yeah. Now error is a usual informal, so let's start there.
Yeah. There's a tendency.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. And also has to have, and there's another one, seem to have. Okay. Basically, guys, the advice we can give you here is very similar to the advice we give you on phrasal verbs. Yeah, these are standard verbs that, when go together, they follow the gerund or they follow the infinitive. Yes. Okay. It's just a question of learning them and using them.
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't a solid rule that can help us, that can guide us into remembering which is which. That is probably why the title of this dialogue is a dilemma.
A dilemma,
So,
yeah.
yes, just we can only say that the more you grow confident with these fixed expressions, the more confident you will actually sound when you speak English. It's going to come easier the more you do it. So all we can suggest is to repeat them, to use them. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes, but that's also how you learn. So,
and they are phrases, yes, they are phrases. And again, with a lot of the phrases, they are set in their ways, and it's just a matter of remembering the phrases, like the phrasal verbs. Yes, I know it's difficult sometimes for people who are learning English to remember the correct preposition, but for the meaning that you're trying to express, but there is only one. So it's just a matter of practice. These are standard phrases that always follow these patterns. Yes. Okay, we can show you quickly here. So we have verbs that follow with ing gerund form. Okay, so we have start looking, stop working, avoid wasting, and consider analyzing, and keep changing. And the next one, Al?
then we have verbs that follow with the infinitive. So we have manage to bring, for example, to be able to bring, to be important to assess, tend to be, seem to have, aim to finish, and need to increase.
Perfect. Okay, guys, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thank
you very much for participating in this webinar once again. We hope that the language we looked with you was useful, and tomorrow is a bank holiday, so we won't be having our usual webinars, and we will resume with the webinar starting from Monday.
Yes, we hope you all have a nice long weekend. And as Alex said, thank you for joining us again, and we will see you next week.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a nice bank holiday.